Look, just because you're in pain doesn't mean everyone around you is trying to take advantage of you. So look, a couple days ago, one of my advisors and I were on a call with a gentleman who had reached out to us, wanted help, wanted to jump into our Thrive program, was struggling on the financial side. So we talked through everything and made a deal with him. And this was after multiple conversations, right? This wasn't like that was the first time we talked to him. We pressured him into buying and whatever, but made a deal with him and like gave him some really good, flexible terms, to join the program. And, the next day, he talked to his family and they said we were a scam and they said we were trying to rip him off. And he said he felt disrespected and taken advantage of in his pain. This shit pisses me off. Number one, we're not a scam. We've served over 1,300 clients in just a couple of years. If we were a scam, those 1,300 clients would have come forward and said, Empowered Man is a scam. We're not a fucking scam. I don't have to defend that, but it is what it is. Number two, the second part that actually really pissed me off, I don't care. You can call me a scam, whatever. I don't really give a fuck about that. What I really pissed off about was the fact that this man decided to say that we took advantage of him in his pain. Let me tell you something. I have been in the pain that he is in. I've been in the pain even worse. Okay? I've been through the gauntlet of this shit. I was cheated on. I was emotionally abused. I went through all the things. I was abandoned. I was rejected. I went through all of the things that you were going through. Why the fuck would I try to build a business that takes advantage of men going through what I fucking went through and overcame? Who in their right mind would do some shit like that? Maybe a narcissist? I don't fucking know. That's not us. That is not what we do at Empowered Man. We want to help you. We want to get you out of your shit. Sometimes that means helping you see that you're in your own fucking way. This man is still in his own fucking way. He's looking for somebody to blame for his situation. And instead of taking responsibility and ownership, he wants to blame other people. And so now he's trying to blame us for taking advantage of him. That's like going to the ER in excruciating pain and then looking at the doctor and saying, you're just trying to take advantage of me. You don't really want to help me. Like, how absurd is your thinking when this is how you see the world? That's called victim mindset. When you think that everyone is trying to take advantage of you, especially someone offering help that comes with a financial piece of it, and you think they're trying to take advantage of you. Look, this world is not full of handouts. It costs money to run a business. And here's the other truth of it, is that we provide a valuable service to men. A valuable service. In fact, so much so that men have paid up to 2 times what we currently charge for our Thrive program. 2 times what we currently charge for our Thrive program. But we kept it at this investment price because we wanted as many men as possible to come in. And at the same time, for us to be able to run this as a successful business meant that we need to make a profit, right? That's because the value creation. I'm a business owner, an entrepreneur. How about you go to your plumber? How about you go to your doctor? How about you go to your car mechanic and say, hey, you really shouldn't charge me for that because I'm in pain right now. Like, you would get laughed out of the hospital. You would get laughed out of whatever. But that's the problem with entitlement in our fucking country. Is people want fucking handouts. They don't want skin in the game. Because skin in the game means you're responsible for your own fucking work. At Empowered Man, we call men up and out of their shit. We call them to responsibility for their problems. I'm not responsible for what you've done. I'm not responsible for your shit. I'm not responsible for any of those things. What I'm responsible for is owning my shit. Is showing up every day for my team. Is helping the people that are in our program, right? I am responsible for that. And if you don't want to come in, that's fine. But to sit here and say, with the audacity that we are trying to take advantage of you because you're in pain, that's some bullshit. And the final piece of this is that he let his family make the decision for him. His family made the decision for him. How can you be a leader If you let your family, your wife, your kids, your job, your boss make every decision for you. This is the problem with our country. This is the problem with our culture, is there is such a vacuum of leadership where men don't know how to make a decision and take responsibility for their decision. I have made both good and bad investments, but the bad investments I've owned. I've invested in coaching that didn't get me what I wanted. And when I really looked at it, it was because I didn't put in the work to get the necessary requirement out of it. You see, when you hire a coach, you have to learn how to extract value. And if you don't know how to extract value, you have to develop the skill of extracting value. But instead, what a lot of guys like to do is say it's a scam, say we're trying to take advantage of you, let other people make the decision. I got to talk to my pastor. I got to talk to God. I got to talk to everyone else. And look, I don't have a problem with you praying. I don't have a problem with you asking for wisdom. But what I have a problem with is you letting them make the decision for you and letting them influence your decision to a point where you can't make the decision because you're a chicken shit and you're a pussy and you don't know how to make a fucking decision. This is me calling men out who are on the fence. This is me calling you out if you're letting everyone else make the decisions for you. And I don't care if it's about joining Empowered Man or making a decision to move forward in your divorce or making a decision to do whatever it is you gotta fucking do. Stop letting everybody else make the decision for you. And stop assuming that people are just trying to take advantage of you when there's money involved. That's a victim mindset. That's money wounds. That's poverty thinking. If you want to be successful in life, you cannot think that way. If you want to be a leader in life, you cannot think that way. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe this guy doesn't want to be a leader, even though he is a manager in his company. Happens all the time. We have leaders in high levels who don't want to own anything. They want to blame Putin. They want to blame other people. They don't want to fucking take responsibility. Guys, it's time to take responsibility. It's time to take responsibility. Empowered Man was started with the idea of helping other men own their shit, get out of their own way, and become leaders again. We want a movement of men doing that because our country, our world fucking needs it. Our kids need men who are leaders. They don't need passive men. They don't need men who are just so afraid of making a decision that it's going to be a bad decision and they can't move forward and they can't do it. Guys, I make hard decisions all the fucking time. And I agonize over some of those decisions. But I make the decision and I own it and I move on. That's what you do. And if it's a mistake, it's a mistake. You own it and you move on. It's not the end of the world. You joining our program is never the end of the world. If you come in and you do the work, you're going to get a return. I 100% guarantee it. I've never once, not once, over 300 men have gone through the Empowered Man Thrive program. Over 300 men and over 1,000 have gone through our 30-day challenge. Not once has a man come in and done all of the work and got to the end and said, I got no value out of it. It wasn't worth it. Not one man. Not one. Because you get out of it what you put into it. So you can either get something out of this, just like you're listening to this podcast, and get a return on it and take action on it, or you can just go, that was a nice message, Mark. That was great. I feel really inspired now. Fucking do something. Do something. Take action today. Stop being a bitch. Do something. Lead. Take responsibility. Make a decision. Take action. Go after it. Get it. Let's go. What's up? All right. So I just decided to go live and riff on some things that my team and I have been talking about with things that are happening with you guys and what you're struggling with. We talked to upwards of 25 men, not 25, I'd say anywhere from 10 to 15 men a day who are in the situation that you are in right now, every single day. And then on top of that, we have 80 active clients in our Thrive and Momentum programs, as well as an additional couple hundred in our 30-day challenge. And so we hear the things that you guys are struggling with on a regular basis, a lot. And so I wanted to talk about this concept called detaching from the outcome. And that is this, just like when I got on here, there's a certain outcome that I was hoping for, and that's, X amount of people that are watching the live. But if I got on here and I attached to the outcome of, oh, I want, 50 people watching me live and 50 people don't watch me live, then it could hurt my feelings. It can make me sad. It could make me feel all kinds of things. Instead of serving and showing up well, and to the people that did show up, I would be so attached to the outcome I wanted, I wouldn't be able to serve well. And this is what's happening for so many of you, because you come in and you're hurt right now, and in the midst of your hurt, in the midst of your pain, you're making the mistakes that are coming from that place of hurt and pain, instead of detaching from the outcome that you want. Now, what is the outcome that you want? Well, that varies. Most of you here, I would probably say 95 to 98% of you in our Facebook group or listening to my podcast, want to save their marriage. That's why you're here. You want to figure out, how do I save my marriage? Now, there's a few of you, and there's, always a handful of guys who don't necessarily care about saving their marriage, and they're just so hurt and so injured and they just want to move on, and that's fine. But really, for those, and really this goes for anyone, what I'm talking about is the outcome of saving your marriage. Okay. And if that's your outcome, if your outcome is saving your marriage, number one, you got to define what that outcome even looks like, right? Some of you have not even defined that. Say, well, what does it mean to save your marriage? Well, it means that like things go back to normal. Well, first of all, things never go back to normal. That's impossible. Even if you were to save your marriage, things would never go back to normal. The reason for that is because you have major trauma that has come into your marriage. And this trauma, it's like a big cut, right? If you ever got injured, like where you had to have stitches, or some sort of big cut on your arm or your leg or something, like your body, or even like maybe you went through surgery, right? And you had a big gash in your stomach, doctor had to open you up, putting that back together, staples or some sort of, I don't even know, stitches or whatever, your body is never going to be the same again. It's just never going to be the same again. And it's the same with a marriage who's been through, potential divorce, who's been through any type of, affairs or things like that. It's not that it can't get back together. It's that when it goes back together, it's not the same. So here's the thing, is that if you have that, as you're in your mind, you don't even know what your outcome is. You have to, number one, create an outcome. So creating the outcome looks like going, what does a new marriage look like? You can't save the old. The old is dead. So many of you come in here and you're like, I just want to save my marriage. I want to save my marriage. Dude, you cannot save your marriage. Your old marriage is dead. It's gone. It's done. But what you can do is create a new marriage. And creating a new marriage is hard as fuck. It is not easy to do. Creating a new marriage looks like you actually showing up in a new way, right? Let's say you have old habits, old patterns, all those things. You can't show up in your new marriage the same way you showed up in the old marriage. You just can't. That's not changing anything. That's not transforming anything. And you go, well, we've got old patterns, old habits. Exactly. And that's why we have our Thrive program, so that we can help you break the old patterns and habits of the past and show up differently in your actual marriage. That's a contrasting thing. So if you've got this outcome, we've got to clearly define the outcome. So what is your clearly defined outcome? Is your clearly defined outcome just coming back together and making things as if they never existed? Well, I'm here to tell you that doesn't happen. So particularly in my last marriage, this happened multiple times where my ex-wife cheated on me, and we went through sort of reconciliation, and reconciliation looked like us, kind of coming to grips with what happened, and then a lot of prayer and minimal amounts of counseling from pastors. We didn't really go to therapy. We just kind of like worked through it ourselves. And we would get to this place, I'd say a couple months in, where it would seem like everything was amazing. Everything was better. Everything was just like on a high. And some of you experienced that high. Some of you experienced that like, wow, it's like a new marriage. It's like starting over, and it's like great. It's amazing. It's got all these great feelings associated with it. But here's the thing, is that underneath that, if the real core issues haven't been dealt with, If the person who done the cheating hadn't dealt with their stuff, if the person who'd been cheated on hadn't dealt with the forgiveness part of it and the healing part of it, they haven't fully dealt with it, it doesn't just go away. What happens is you start to bury it. You start to put it deep below the surface because over time you don't want to deal with it anymore. And especially if you're not going through any type of, therapy or deep coaching or any type of work like that, you just bury the stuff. And so if that's the outcome you want, number one, I would say that's not a healthy outcome, right? Because that's not an outcome that's going to actually get you anywhere. And then number two, you've got to determine what a healthy outcome looks like. So a healthy outcome looks like is if you want a new marriage, defining what that looks like. That defining a new marriage is really about creating a new marriage where I'm not showing up the way I showed up and she's not showing up the way she showed up. I can't control how she showed up. I can control how I show up. So one of the things we do in Thrive, the very first thing we teach you how to do is communicate. We teach you how to communicate like a leader. We have these different assignments, if you will. We talk about power triangles. We talk about setting the boundary or setting the narrative. All these types of trainings around changing how you communicate as a man in your marriage. And not only in your marriage, this is one of the cool side benefits of Thrive, is that most men come in thinking it's about their marriage, and it's really not. It's about you as a man in general. And we apply it to marriage. We just use marriage as kind of the sequence of events that you're going through. But then guys will end up applying it into their business. They'll apply it with their children. We have guys all the time talk about dropping power triangles with their children. We're dropping power triangles at work. It's amazing. So, but this kind of work only comes when you can detach from the outcome. So let's talk about this some more. So you have to create what the outcome, the healthy outcome is that you want. So say you want a new marriage. Now that you've created that outcome, you have to create a plan and detach. Okay. So creating the plan comes along the lines of, if I want a new marriage, and this is what I want the new marriage to look like, I can't control how my wife shows up, but what I can do is control how I show up. So what that looks like is me doing the work that I need to do. Some of you are like, well, I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to do everything. We talk about this all the time with my advisor team and my marketing specialists. It's like, if a man comes to you and he's like, man, I'm willing to do anything it takes to get my marriage back. And we say, okay, well, it's going to take doing this. Say, we have guys all the time that say, I want to get my marriage back, but we've never seen a man create a new marriage without having done the work on himself. We say, sir, are you willing to do the work on yourself? Like, oh, yeah. I've been going to the gym. I read books, I read blogs, all those types of things. Yeah, but are you willing to confront the reality that is in you right now? And I'm telling you guys, most men are not willing to confront the reality of who they are. They don't want to look inside, and they definitely don't want other people looking inside because of fear. We fear what men and other people will think of us if they knew the true us. I bet you could raise your hand right now if you're watching this live or even on replay and raise your hand or put something up, comment me, whatever, if you are a guy who is afraid of other men seeing inside of him. If you are a man who's afraid of other men seeing inside of him, if that's you, put your hand up, say me. There's nothing wrong with that. But first thing you have to do is admit that you're that guy. Admit that you're a man that is afraid of other men looking inside of you and getting to know the real you, because that real you is intimacy, and that real you is what we crave. Men crave intimacy. We crave it. We desire it. We desire to be known and to know, but we don't know what to do with that because we're still afraid of it. We're still afraid that if someone looks inside of me, they're going to see ugly. They're going to see something that nobody else wants to see. And so we have to create a plan to move towards the outcome. So the plan looks like working on myself. What does working on myself look like? Working on yourself is an emotional thing. It's not as physical. I mean, it can be physical. You can go to the gym, and those things are important. It is spiritual as well. If you have a faith background or some sort of faith thing, you might want to involve way more prayer and scripture and things of that nature in what you do. But Empowered Man, what we talk about is more the emotional side of things, and really understanding who we are as men, really understanding how we've shown up in this marriage, the failures of how we contributed to the failure of the marriage. That's the hard work. You cannot have an outcome of saving your marriage if you yourself are not willing to look deep within and understand how you failed in this marriage. We have a lot of guys that come to us, and I call it the shit don't stink guy, where they go, well, my wife cheated on me, or, well, this happened, and it's all her, and she's abusive, and she's toxic, and she, hitting that she button. And my feelings and thoughts about the she button. The she button is just a convenient way for you to ignore the responsibility that you have in your marriage. It's just a convenience factor. And it's what we're conditioned to do as men, because we've been blaming women since the Garden of Eden. When Adam sinned against God, and God said, Adam, what did you do? And he's like, it was the woman you gave me. Basically, like, she made me do it. She gave me the apple. I didn't go do this. This was on her. And so we've been blaming wives. We've been blaming women since day one. Since day one, when sin entered the world. And so we're conditioned already to blame our wives. So it makes total sense when a guy comes in here and he's been hurt, he's been sinned against, he's been offended, he's all those things. And he comes in here and he wants to blame her. The number one thing you have to do to work on yourself is to stop blaming your wife. I'm gonna say that again. If you want to work on yourself, the number one thing you've got to stop doing is blaming your wife. It is impossible, absolutely impossible, for you to move forward, for you to be a leader, for you to do anything of powerful consequence if you continuously are blaming your wife for the situation and the circumstance you're in. Gentlemen, I have been through the gauntlet personally. I was married for 17 years. I experienced almost everything you can experience. And I don't like talking about the things that I went through with my wife, or my ex-wife, because it's not my job to throw her under the bus. But I can guarantee, if you piece together my story, you've heard certain things that I've experienced, that I have every reason to have blamed her. Every reason I could blame her. It was her, decision. It was her things. And so she made me divorce her, basically. And I could tell you stories for days around some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, after I did the work and I really looked at myself, I said, Mark, you contributed just as much to the failure of the marriage as she did. In fact, I take full ownership of the failure of the marriage. I take full ownership. Number one, I chose this woman. Number two, I asked her to marry me. Number three, I tolerated and allowed things and behaviors and patterns to evolve over 17 years. That was on me. Number four, I treated her and showed up in a way that wasn't healthy. And number five, I own everything because I am the leader. And as I said a couple of weeks ago in one of my podcasts, that there's no such thing as bad marriages, only bad husbands. And I firmly believe that as a husband now in a new marriage with a new woman. I know that if the marriage goes bad, it's on me. It's not on her. It is on me. I must take responsibility. I must do that, because if I don't take responsibility, I cannot lead. How many of you like hearing, our president now blaming other people, or even other president? Last president did the same thing. How many of you like hearing leaders blame their people, or blame other people for the circumstances and situations they're in? It's the market's problem. It's my employee's problem. It's all these other people's faults instead of them. It's like, when will somebody stand up and take responsibility? When will leaders start to stand up and take responsibility? We live in a shook 'em off culture, a blame other people culture, because we don't have a strong leadership culture. There's a vacuum of leadership in our world. And that's why we have a lot of the problems that we have, because we don't know how to own our shit. So if you want to detach from the outcome, if you want to be a man that creates a new marriage, and that means you have to work on yourself in order to create a new marriage with your wife, the number one thing you've got to do is stop blaming her for all the shit. And number two, you got to like work on yourself emotionally. Looks like you getting better at how you show up. That looks like you coming to communicate with her in such a way that's powerful, that's like a leader, that's humble, that's empathetic, that has strong boundaries in different areas, to make sure that you as a team are going in an effective way. Essentially, it comes back to this, is that you can't have any power in your marriage without humility. And you can't work on yourself without humility. So many of you come in here like, oh, I'm working on myself. I'm working on myself. It's bullshit. You're not working on yourself. You're telling yourself a story because it's comfortable. You're telling yourself a story that, well, if I go to the gym or if I read these blogs, if I read these books, if I do these things, that you're working on yourself. No, you're doing some things that may bring some improvement. And maybe you even join like my 30-day challenge or something like that. But those are just like basic elements. And not every guy wants to work on himself at the level that I work on myself. Not every guy wants to continuously get better and improve himself for the long term. Not every man wants that. And I get that. I totally get that. That's why our Thrive program is not for every man, right? But our Thrive program specifically is for men who've decided they want to detach from the outcome of saving the marriage. They still want to save the marriage, but they want to detach from the outcome of saving the marriage. They want to do the work on themselves so that they can show up more powerfully with their wife, their children, and their job, because this affects everything you do, and detach from the outcome and move forward. That's who our Thrive program is for. So we're talking about detaching from the outcome and creating this sort of, I don't even know if I'd want to call it a bucket of stuff, but essentially you create a plan. And that plan starts with looking at your own like actual outcome that you want, having a healthy outcome, creating a plan to get there, right? And so the plan to get there is by working on myself and then detaching from the outcome. So I work on myself, then I detach. Detachment looks like knowing the goal and understanding what it is that you want, but detaching emotionally from the consequence of it. So if I detach emotionally from it, that means that it has no bearing on me what happens. So even though I want to win the World Series and I do all the work to win the World Series, I can't control if I win the World Series. I just can't. The same with the Super Bowl, the same with any other winning thing. So any athletes will tell you this. This is where this comes from in athletics, is that I can create a goal to win the championship, but every year only one team is going to win the championship. And so if I'm so attached to that outcome that I can't function, that I can't think, that I get so mad, that I get so worked up over these things, I'll never fully embrace and enjoy the process. This is the hard part, because what you want to do a lot of times, this is how we operate, is we want to just like put our head down and like do everything we can to win, do everything we can to make her come back to the marriage. We want to send her flowers. We want to tell her I love her. We want to analyze every single conversation, and we want to do all of these things because we're trying to control and manipulate the outcome. And that's what we're wired to do, is to control and manipulate the outcome. But we have to rewire, if you will, our mindset into a place of, I'm detaching from this. I want it, but I'm detaching emotionally from this outcome. And as much as I want to be married, I know I'm going to be okay if I'm no longer married. I know that this will not kill me. This will not end me. This will not alter my future. In fact, my future will continue to get better. When I filed for divorce from my ex-wife, I said, I was 40 years old. It was an opportunity for me to become the most powerful version of myself ever, and I became that man. If you would have known me 5, 10 years ago, you'd be like, this dude's weak. This dude's a beta bitch. And you hear me now and you're like, why is he so strong? And why is he so loud? And why does he use the F word so much? And why does he? Because I have been through the fire. And when you've been through the fire and you come out the other side, you come out a completely different man. And it's not to say that, if I was taking a score, right, I financially make more money, I have a better wife, I have a better home life situation, my kids love me more. I have all the things. I am in the best place I have ever been in my life after divorcing my wife. That doesn't mean I tell you go divorce your wife, but what it means is that you're going to be okay regardless of what happens. Regardless of what happens. If you bring her back, and she's back in the marriage, but if you haven't changed, it won't change anything. What you'll do is continue to bury the stuff until it comes back out again. It's like that beach ball analogy where you try to take the beach ball and try to shove it under the water. It takes a lot of work to keep that thing under there, but eventually it pops back up. Why? This is what happens in marriages that don't actually deal with the shit. And I'm not talking about her shit. I'm talking about your shit. because I can't control what she does. What I can't control is what I teach you. And what you can control is how you show up and how you decide, do I want to deal with this beach ball or do I want to just shook it off and blame her? It's totally up to you. I got a question here. Any tips on how to detach from the outcome? It's extremely desired, like emotional and physical intimacy. I mean, all that is generally comes back to is almost like a physiological addiction in a sense, that over time, the further away you get from that person or that thing, the less it's there. I remember not having sex with my wife was hard. It was very hard. And I failed a couple times in going back into, having a relationship or having sex with her. And it was hard because I couldn't like not have it. Right. Like I was just but I made up my mind. I said, I'm not going to treat her transactionally. I'm not going to let her be a means to an end for me. That's not how I want to show up. And so my value superseded my desire. So Dirk, to answer your question, when your values supersede your desire, that's what happens. That's how you win. Because your value has to be stronger than just feeling like I need this person. You don't need anything. You don't need anyone. You need intimacy for sure in terms of emotional and physical intimacy over long term. I don't think though that you need sex in order to survive. I do think there are people who have the gift of not having sex. And I do think also that it's a healthy thing to take a break from it, especially if it's consuming you, in terms of her. So it's definitely possible. But detaching from the outcome is all about emotional detachment. There's frameworks that we can give you. There's things that we can talk about with it. But what I really want to hone in on the fact is that you have to detach. Like you cannot try to control her if you want to stay married to her. Like I posted earlier this morning, and I'm going to send an email about it, where we had a guy today, matter of fact, on the phone with my advisors, is like, I want to do this program. I want to do it, but I don't want her to find out. I'm afraid that if she finds out that she's going to divorce me, or that she's going to file for divorce, or that she's going to leave sooner, or whatever. And all that is manipulation. It's manipulation. Because we don't know what to do with the fact that this person is rejecting us. And so we have to try to get our healthy needs met in unhealthy ways, which is what manipulation is. It's getting healthy needs met in an unhealthy way. The healthy need is for, love, and it's for intimacy, and it's for affection, right? And so, and the unhealthy part of that is going, if I manipulate her to make her stay with me, then I won't lose those things. And that's why you do what you do. And all of that, a lot of that's based in ego, which I'm going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about ego and the effect it has on you because it's the enemy. Got another question. How do you personally deal with an ex who talks about divorce but hasn't filed yet? What do we do personally? I personally just haven't brought it up again. That's kind of a hard question to answer, like in that short of a sentence. But essentially, Michael, what you're saying is that she's communicating to you that she wants a divorce, hasn't filed anything. She's trying to tell you that she's got needs. She's trying to tell you that there's things going on that she's not happy about. And by you not bringing it up is just basically, again, burying it, acting like it's not happening, and it's happening. You're just in denial. Look, women leave men 2 to 3 years before they actually leave men, meaning emotionally they leave upwards of 2 to 3 years before they actually file for divorce or before they actually move out. So if she's talking about divorce, she's already emotionally divorced you more than likely. So not talking about it isn't doing anything. And that's my point here. And what you guys are doing and going through is that instead of you actually dealing with the issue, what you're doing is burying it. What you're doing is shooking it off to something else. You're not being leaders. You're not being leaders. And that's what I'm here to do, is empower you to be a leader in your relationship, to be a leader in your life. That's the vision of Empowered Man, is to help thousands, millions of men thrive in every dimension of life. And this is just one of those dimensions. So Michael's follow-up to that was, she told her parents, I've made promises I haven't kept, but I've opened up with what I've done wrong on my side. Yeah, that really doesn't matter. I mean, again, this is the same thing that I hear all the time, where guys like, but I own my shit. No. Owning your shit is a lifestyle. It's not a one time I said sorry, because sorry doesn't fix anything. If you've broken trust It takes a lot of work and a lot of time to earn it back. So she's saying that you've made promises you haven't kept. Again, I don't know. I don't know the situation other than what you're telling me. All I can say is you owning it is a lifestyle of it. And not only that, but you can't change how she feels about it. Just because you own your shit doesn't mean she's just going to go, oh, well, you owned it. You said you're sorry. So we're good now. That's not how it works. It doesn't work that way. You can't be so immature and childish to think that just because you apologize to your wife, you think that she's just going to be like, oh, okay, I forgive you and it's all over. It's not a fucking movie. Like, you guys aren't living in a movie. This is reality. This isn't a fantasy. This isn't some Netflix, rom-com or some shit. This is reality. And the reality is when a woman has been hurt and is offended, deep down inside, she cuts off emotional connection from you. And more than likely, she'd been trying for years to emotionally connect to you. But because you don't know how to communicate, because you don't have boundaries, because you don't understand how to articulate what you need, because you refuse to get help for it, she said, fine, I'm done. And it's like, now you want to fix it? It's obnoxious as fuck when a man does that. So it's like, you have to respect the fact that she has tried and tried and tried and is now saying, there's nothing I can do. I don't want to be with you anymore. And you have to accept that. And you have to go, you know what? I understand. I see your point. I see how I did not show up. It fucking hurts. Of course it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Guys, I know it hurts. I've lived through this pain, this rejection, this abandonment. I understand it hurts, but that hurt can turn you into a new man if you choose it to be. Look, I've seen it go one way or the other. You either become a bitter, nasty man or you become an empowered man. That's it. That is totally it. You're either going to be jaded and bitter or you're going to be empowered and full of power, confidence, and freedom. But it's up to you to choose what you want to do. It's totally up to you to choose what you want to do. So detaching from the outcome, guys, I want you to really focus on detaching from the outcome and working on yourself. Working on yourself looks like this: owning your shit, taking care of the things that you need to take care of, taking care of your kids, right? Being the best father for them, showing up for them, not talking about mom to them, not talking shit about her or her new boyfriend or any of those things, keeping that out of it. Right? It comes down to you doing the inner work on yourself, where you look inside, where you open up the heart and go, what in me needs to grow? What in me needs to transform? What in me needs to change? To those of you who married a really toxic woman, what in you attracted that woman? That was me. I attracted a toxic person in my life. And I've had to do the work on understanding the sort of the ego side of me, or the things inside of me that attracted her in a negative way. The savior side of me, of wanting to be a savior to her. All of those things have to get dealt with. So that in my future and now in my current marriage, I'm not the savior. I'm not that same guy. I don't show up the same way. And I didn't attract a toxic person. I attracted a very healthy person because that's what I desired. If that's what you desire, guys, you've got to do the work. You've got to stop trying to manipulate everything, and you've got to stop trying to control her and what is going on. I leave you with this. Man, if you want true transformation, you need to level up your atmosphere. You need to level up who is around you. Look, I don't care if your dad's been divorced. I don't care if your friends have been divorced. I don't care if your pastor's been divorced. I don't care who these people are. None of these people are professionals. And what I mean by that is that they are not paid to help men in these specific situations where they're facing separation or divorce in this critical time, where one wrong move could change the outcome, right? And again, it's not about controlling the outcome, but it's about making sure that you're living the way you need to live right now and doing the things that you need to do. You're getting a ton of bad advice right now, tons of bad advice. Every day I hear bad advice from well-meaning friends. Oh, you should leave her ass. Oh, you should do this. Oh, you should do that. An empowered man, we're not about giving advice. We're about helping empower you to show you what you need to do. Because you have the answers within. Guys come, should I divorce my wife? Dude, that's not on me. That's on you. You have to make that decision. But you're too afraid to make that decision. So I'm going to empower you with the things you need to know of how to make that decision so that you can make that decision for you and your family and your kids, for yourself. What good does it for me to be this guru who just tells you what to do and then you didn't actually grow through this. No, I want to create empowered men, men who are empowered in every dimension of life, men who are growing as fathers, men who are growing as business leaders, men who are growing in their wealth, men who are growing in their health, men who are doing these things because they've decided they don't want to be slaves or victims anymore, that they want to be powerful, the most powerful version of themselves. If you want to get in a community of men who are empowered, if you want to get around other guys, hey, the free Facebook group is a great place to be. My podcast is a great place to be, but none of that's going to transform you to the level of what we have in our Thrive program. It is a 90-day program specifically designed for men who are wanting to transform into the most powerful version of themselves, to learn how to communicate like leaders, to diffuse the power that their wife has over them, to learn how to own their shit and heal from the pain they're going through, and to become the CEO of their life for the first time ever. Ever. Guys, I'm inviting you into that. If that's you, if you're the kind of man, you're like, dude, I don't even know how much it costs. I don't even know if I can do it, but I want that. If that's you, put Thrive down below. One of my guys is gonna check in with you, have a quick conversation, see what's going on in your life, help you get value. Our conversations are always valuable. Whether you come into Thrive or not, you're gonna get value out of it. I can tell you how many times we've had guys get on the phone with our guy and they're like, man, I can't do this right now, but that was a super valuable conversation, because that's what we want to do. So we want to help you make the best decision for you. You can either continue doing this without help and keep trying to spin your wheels, or you can get the help you need that's going to get you there the fastest way possible. So if I were you, I'd stop spinning my wheels and I would get in this train right now. If that's you, put Thrive down below. You can always comment and replay afterwards. See you guys.
Welcome to the Bourbon Moment. Join your host, M Sizzle, J Dub, and Mandrew as they sip on some bourbon and spit some truth. Welcome to the Bourbon Moment.
I've got a question for you guys, and this is a fun one. This is even more fun than the last question. Okay, you ready for this? Worst kiss or makeout session ever. Go. You got to describe the kiss and describe the girl.
I got it.
All right.
I got it. All right. I was at a music festival.
Okay.
It was like an EDM type of music festival. It was in San Diego. It was in downtown San Diego at the Hard Rock Hotel. And it was just a regular Friday night. And I was walking in, I was with my boys at the time. And at the time
I could hear that staying alive.
That's what I felt like, dude. I felt like I was on top of the world, because at the time San Diego Protein was sponsoring the event. So like we had like a table, people were being given donuts around. So I felt like the man, although no one knew I was the guy. But it was exciting to be there. So we had a bunch of people at our table, and I'm talking to this woman who, up until this experience, I had shiny object syndrome. And anyone who doesn't know what that is, think about when you see a shiny object, you're in awe of someone.
Yes.
You start to ideate and tell yourself the story of how amazing it's going to be.
All right. So about how tall?
She was shorter than I was. So she was about 5'7", wearing heels. Still shorter than I was. She was at about eye height. I had to lean down.
Boobs?
Oh, she was fake boobs. She was in the fitness industry.
Are you a fake boob guy?
No, not at all. I actually don't like it. She was an IFBB pro in the bikini arena. Yeah. I'm not going to say her name.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't say her name because she's actually like had a great career for herself there. And we're still on great terms. But if she hears this, this is the truth of what happened that evening. So we're chatting and like things are going well. And I have this rule. And I don't think you guys have seen this rule because I don't drink tequila with you guys anymore. Anytime I'm with you, I drink bourbon. But I had this rule. I used to do tequila sodas, and I would tell the bartender, after 4, only give me soda water. I would tip them right then, like $20. After 4, only give me soda water. And I obviously tip them each time after that. But I want to make sure, like, hold me accountable if I don't hold myself accountable. So I'm like sobering up a little bit. And you know that point when you drink a little too much and you're like, man, I need to bring myself back. I was to that point. And I was literally like 2 options right now. I either lean in and I chat with her a little bit more, or I Irish goodbye and I just take off and I fucking go home. Those are my two options right now.
Irish goodbye.
Yeah, Irish exit, Irish goodbye. And so I end up turning to her and I was like, hey, I'm going to be honest. I really want to connect with you. And in this moment, I'm trying to sober up a little bit. And she turns to me, grabs my face, and she's like, you're so cute. And I looked at her and I was like, you are too. Is it okay if I kiss you? Because I think consent is a good thing, especially in this age and era that we're in. No, real shit. Like I always ask for consent. I always do. I think it's an attractive thing. And so she's like, oh, you're adorable. Yes. So I go to kiss her. And right as I get close, and man, I'm sorry if she hears this, right as I get close, the smell, the odor of like cigarettes and what smelled like rotten, like just rotten was present.
Like tuna? Had she been eating pussy?
No, dude, like rotten. I'm talking like rotten, like dirt. Like the other, I would have been intrigued. I would have probably been like, huh, that's interesting.
Like, that's interesting. I've smelled that before.
I would have backed up and been like,
this could work.
I have questions after.
Where's she at?
Dude, I start going into it and I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe that's just like an auditory smell that I got as I'm like going in, because there's thousands of people around us and we're close to the stage. And I'm thinking, who knows what's happening here? It's Hard Rock Hotel, and Hard Rock Hotel in San Diego has got some skeletons in the closet with what happens at that place. They got a pool, they got co-ed bathrooms, all kinds of stuff.
Oh,
that you have.
wow.
Yeah, it's wild. We'll go there sometime. But it ended up being her, because then she tries to give me a little tongue, and this felt like sandpaper, and it tastes like cigarette butts. I didn't even see this woman smoking a cigarette at all. So I'm like baffled. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So I end up turning to her and I stopped her and I was like, hey, this is great, but I'm going to be honest. And I acted like I was going to be sick. And I left. I walked away. I went to the bathroom. I waited. Dude, I had my watch at the time and I was like, Siri, start a timer for 7 minutes. And I sat there in the bathroom because I was like, who's going to wait for 7 minutes? Like, she's got to be on one. She's got to already be like back with their friends. No, dude. I go to walk out. Security standing outside the door. And he's like, hey, are you Joey? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, so-and-so told me to wait here for you to make sure you were okay. She wanted me to give this to you. And it's her phone number. And it says, text me when you're done. We're staying in room number, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, fuck. Like, she put something in place. She knew she wasn't going to stay here. So she put something in place. And so I ended up going home because I just didn't want to be out anymore. I didn't want to happen to run into her or any of her friends. And I didn't want to address it. And I was also kind of tired. So I ended up texting her the next day. Hey, my phone died. Sorry, I never got back to you. Bro, I never got a text back. Never got anything back. I've never shared that story ever. We've spoken since then. I just told her I wasn't feeling it. I think we both weren't in the right place. But truth be told, it felt like I was kissing an ashtray mixed with sandpaper, mixed with like sewage.
Andrew, you got a quick one?
Yeah, I mean, mine's not, I guess, compared to that. Like, of course, we got to go Joey first, right? Like, Joey's like up here.
It was not good.
Mine was probably, it's hard to think of, but high school, senior year, we're having a little party at my parents' house. Because my parents were like, those parents were like, hey, if you're going to drink, we don't want to know, but put the keys away. So, we were doing whatever, and downstairs, in my bedroom was in the basement. So downstairs hanging out, and I go to the bathroom, take a piss. I come out, and this girl that's a year younger than me just meets me at the door. And she just grabs me and starts making out with me. Like, I was like, whoa, what is going on? But it was like, it wasn't, and that was bad. And then the kiss was even worse. Like, there's a lot of tongue, a lot of teeth, which is weird as fuck.
I've bumped teeth with someone before. That's a weird experience.
Hey, don't steal my story. I want to talk about that. Yes, go ahead.
So, I mean, that's my story. I was just like dumbfounded. I was like, all right, I guess. And then it was just like an awful, like just whole scenario. I was like, yeah, we got to go out there, and I got friends here. So we just walked out of my bedroom and just kind of forgot about it the rest of the night.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's funny because like when you think about okay, how many girls I've kissed and like the worst ones, there's probably like a list of them that are like pretty bad or like they were good. I consider myself a good kisser. I'm always told that I'm a good kisser. And so like I have high standards. And I remember kissing this girl. And this was in my dating stage a couple years ago. And she had buck teeth. And she was kind of how do I say this? Like she was cute, she wasn't like super attractive. I have a very wide, like if anybody goes, what's Mark's type? Mark's type is very broad. Like I don't have a specific type. If I find you attractive, it's usually because I mix of personality and then just your, some of your look or whatever. And obviously there's some girls I'm just not going to be into. But I remember we were sitting outside of my bachelor pad and we started kissing and she had those buck teeth. And like every time I'd go for like tongue or whatever, it was like the buck teeth kept getting in the way. So it was like, I'm just like hitting I was like, I'm not feeling this, I was like she wanted to, I wanted to, but like we were both kind of like, I think we both kind of felt like this wasn't really happening. Like it just wasn't like what we thought, and I wasn't totally into her. I think I was just like, yeah, let's just see where this goes. I'm a bachelor. Like what happens next, And that was a bad one. Yeah, I mean, like there's been other girls where like their mouths are like super small and like it's almost like kissing a fish at first. And then like they don't have a big mouth, and then you're thinking to yourself, I wonder what that's gonna be like. But I won't say exactly. But ends up being pretty good. It ends up being really good. And you go, oh, okay, so small mouths aren't so bad. It's tight, so it's good. But I'll leave it at that. All right, on to the next bourbon moment.
I just want to add on to that. It's funny, like as you get older, when you start to have these bad experiences, you start to dissect things like, does someone that has small lips make them less able to kiss in a sense? And I start thinking about those things. And I'd be lying if I said that's not like a litmus test that I used in the past where I'm like, oh, small lips. Nope.
Oh yeah. I mean, if they're too small, then there's probably too small. And then if they're too big, it's probably too big. It's definitely can be a case for sure.
Thanks for joining us on the Bourbon Moment. This is your host, M Sizzle. I've got Mandrew and I got J Dub, and we are out. We'll see you next week.